I'm pregnant with Michael's child. It'll be born soon. You should break up with Michael. Shocked by my sister's words, who suddenly showed up at my house, I was more dismayed than surprised. To think she would boast about having an affair with her sister's husband and being pregnant. It was unexpectedly shameless. It's because you never got pregnant that this happened. It's your own fault. You're a defective product because of your infertility. My sister and Michael looked down on me and laughed. Their closeness, as if flaunting it, filled me with disgust. The sisters are too different. I was so hurt that I couldn't even speak. Michael's gaze was surprisingly cold. I'm getting remarried, so let's divorce. If that's what you want, fine. I'll let you go. But is it really Michael's child? After all, my sister and Michael left the house, and I was left alone. But being alone allows me to think deeply. Actually, about that. Things are getting interesting. Just watch. I will make sure they get what they deserve for what they did to me. My name is Kimberly. I married Michael, the managing director and the CEO's son, when I was 30. My in-laws, who had been very kind to me since I was just an employee, introduced us, and that led to our marriage. My parents also blessed our marriage, and relations with people around us were good. Even after getting married, we worked at the same place, and at first, everything seemed to go well. I never imagined I would be pushed into such misery later. Michael, who was initially kind, changed drastically after our marriage. Hey Michael, if you're going to be late, at least let me know in advance. Huh? Why should I have to report my schedule to you? I'll do what I want. But I have to prepare dinner. Shut up. Don't order me around. You're the one doing all this on your own. He'd complain if dinner wasn't ready when he wanted it, though. Watching Michael storm out, I sighed. Right after we married, Michael began spending money recklessly. He dumped his work on his subordinates and frolicked around. Calling it business, he roamed the nightlife almost every morning. I thought he had settled down after becoming a professional, but his true colors showed. What do you mean? I was at the same university as him, and back then, he was famously extravagant. He was out every day and seemed to have multiple girlfriends at the same time. It was so bad that the CEO got angry. I heard he almost cut ties. After that, he seemed to calm down and get serious. I was too shocked to speak. I could clearly hear my voice trembling as I forced it out. I had no idea. A coworker next to me nodded repeatedly. When he joined the company, he was really serious. Everyone thought the CEO's scolding had woken him up. That's probably why he was made the managing director. That's what I thought. Kimberly, you're well regarded in the company. Maybe he let his guard down because you were introduced as his bride? He probably convinced himself that he could take over the company this way. Indeed, Michael's reputation was visibly deteriorating. There were even voices saying that Michael should be fired and the current executive director should be promoted to managing director. That bastard, he underestimated me again. He should know his place. Michael always complains about his boss when he's at home. As he is my immediate supervisor, I felt cornered. Why do you, my wife, have to work under him? Well, I'm in charge of accounting. He seemed displeased with my rebuttal as I spoke up, despite being scared by his yelling. Michael banged on the wall, making a loud noise. Shut up. Don't talk back. Get him fired. It's harassment or something. You work with him. You can figure something out. It's impossible. He's a decent person. Don't take his side. You're my wife. Michael only complains without making any effort. Moreover, he has never contributed money to our household since we got married. I manage all our finances with my salary. I'm managing somehow because I work full-time, but I'm anxious about the future. Hey, can you at least contribute some money to the house? For groceries or utility bills. Huh? Why should I give you my money? You work too, right? That's no way to speak. Aren't we a couple? At least help me with the living expenses. For the first time, I stood my ground against Michael's anger. I was the one paying for everything, groceries and utilities, and life was truly difficult. It's impossible for me to support a lifestyle meant for two on my own. Yet Michael didn't understand. He probably didn't even try to. To him, I'm just a trophy, something to have for the sake of taking over the company. What? Did you marry me for my money after all? That's not it at all. It's hard to maintain the lifestyle you want with just my salary. That's why I'm asking for cooperation. Shut up. This is why I hate poor people. It makes me sick. Don't show your face for a while. It's impossible to discuss anything. But I hesitate to consult my in-laws. They are good people, and discussing such matters would only worry them, and I don't want to cause any strain due to Michael. They are as important to me as my own parents. If my in-laws were to scold Michael, he would take it out on me. I didn't want that. The house we live in was built by my in-laws. They provided the money, and left everything about the house to Michael and me. Back then, when he was still reasonable, it was fun to make decisions about the house together, but now it feels like a distant memory. But to repay my in-laws for their kindness, I'll try a little harder. I renewed my resolve and headed to work. As I remembered my in-laws' kindness, I endured Michael for 3 more years. Michael's behavior only worsened, and now he's notoriously a prodigal son. Moreover, he boasts about not contributing money to the household at social drinking events. Because of this, people say I am meek and can't control my husband, or they pity me as a poor woman stuck with a useless man. I feel confined even when shopping, feeling like someone might be talking about me. Even among the employees, there are those who look down on me for not being able to discipline Michael. Why do you let your husband do whatever he wants? If I had someone like that in the same house, I couldn't stand it. Are you afraid of getting divorced? Look, if you keep quiet, you might become the CEO's wife. If that playboy becomes CEO, then his wife is practically the CEO. That would be a takeover. She looks quiet, but she's scary. Complaining to Michael only results in him yelling, and if such a person becomes CEO, the employees will surely be lost, so they direct their complaints and anxieties towards me. Kimberly, you look pale. Are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. If you have any troubles, feel free to talk to me. Thank you very much. My in-laws also subtly care for me, but I still haven't been able to discuss Michael with them. Delaying the conversation because I thought I could still endure it has led to a feeling of guilt as if I'm hiding something. Unable to express my situation well, I became reticent, and it seems that a distance has formed between me and my in-laws. We treat each other as if handling a bruise, and it's heartbreaking. They are truly good people, but I'm the reason they look so troubled. Always playing the good girl. Do you really want to be the CEO's wife that badly, to marry such a husband? That prodigal son said you're a money grubber, and he might not be entirely wrong. After all, they even built a house for you. My workplace has become an uncomfortable place. Going to work has started to feel increasingly depressing. The only solace is that my direct supervisor, the executive director Tyler, treats me with a very professional attitude. Michael, who unilaterally dislikes him, is surprisingly businesslike even towards me, who feels marginalized. Being distanced from my in-laws and becoming a target of rumors, his detached attitude is a relief. Kimberly, please make a copy of this document. Sure. Trying to please both the executive and the managing director, playing everyone's favorite. Maybe she's thinking it'll be good no matter who becomes CEO. What an ambitious woman. I'm just doing what I need to do. I'm only working, no matter what they say. I'm not in the wrong. No matter how many times I tell myself that, my hands still shake. I heard that after a while, my in-laws told Michael, "We cannot let you take over the company in this state." Michael, red-faced and furious, relayed this to me. It's your fault. You never having kids is why they're saying this. I don't understand how it's come to this. After all, he comes home in the early morning every day, how could it be easy to have a child? Why would it come to that? Your parents just want you to work seriously. You're saying I'm not working? Don't joke. I'm far busier than you and contributing to the company. I earn a much better salary than you. You have no idea about my work. Once it gets to this point, Michael is beyond help. All I can do is wait for him to vent his anger like a tantrum-throwing child. As I shrug and wait for the storm to pass, Michael keeps yelling at me. It's your fault. You're not having kids. A son. Get fertility treatments or whatever, just hurry up and have an heir. That's so. Don't talk back. Michael threw a tantrum again, throwing things around, so I ducked to avoid getting hit. All right. I'll undergo fertility treatment. Will you help? Why should I have to do anything when it's your fault? You're the defective one. Don't mock me. It was scary to see Michael rage, but at the same time, I felt a sense of disgust and exhaustion. Why do I have to endure this treatment? My in-laws meant well by warning him, but it seems to have backfired. But it's unimaginable for a normal person to act this way. If I do as he says, his tantrum will subside for the moment. I gave up everything and complied with Michael's demands. A year into the fertility treatment. And the tests show that my body is normal and capable of pregnancy. When it was suggested that the issue might be with my husband, Michael adamantly refused to get tested. His mood worsens whenever he or things around him are struck, and neither I nor the doctors can speak firmly. Suspected of infertility, Michael told me to see another doctor, but the results were the same no matter the hospital, and Michael only grew more irritable. Could you come to the hospital just once? There might be something I'm not noticing alone. I had been putting up with his bad mood out of fear, but one day I plucked up the courage and asked humbly. Huh? I'm busy. I don't have time to deal with your mess. But without your cooperation, we can't do in vitro fertilization. It seems there's nothing wrong with my eggs. I'd like to move to the next step. I know it takes your time, but could you help just once? It seemed right to say it was for my infertility treatment rather than his tests. He was less likely to get upset. He frowned slightly, but watched me with a glare. You're paying for the treatment, right? Of course. It's my fault. I'll take full responsibility. All right. I guess I'll go then. I was appalled by his ever-arrogant attitude, but I managed to take Michael to the hospital. He brought up money at every turn, and it was hard to tell who really was the money grubber. However, seeing how eagerly I seemed to want Michael's child seemed to improve his mood significantly. He probably enjoys being pampered. No matter how old he gets, he remains childish and immature. Even at the hospital, he reluctantly followed the instructions, then stormed off home against the advice of me and the doctors. I ended up being the only one to listen to the doctor's explanation, feeling completely helpless. Given his behavior, I wasn't too surprised by what followed. Long time no see, Kimberly. Lisa! What are you doing here? One day, my sister Lisa suddenly visited our house. Seeing her proudly smiling with a big belly gave me a bad feeling. Lisa had always been the playful type, and until recently, she had been living carefree at our parents' house without working. However, she stopped visiting home after I married Michael. Our parents were initially worried, assuming she was probably living off some boyfriend again given her track record, but I hadn't expected her to be pregnant. It felt like she was due to give birth soon. I'm pregnant with Michael's child. It will be born soon. Please, divorce Michael for me. It must have been planned. Unusually, Michael was at home and he hugged Lisa's shoulder, sneering at me. Just like Lisa said. I don't need a woman who can't get pregnant forever. I've put up with you just to save face for the parents, but I can't stand it anymore. You're costing a fortune on treatments without getting pregnant? Michael is troubled by that. My sister laughed triumphantly, and Michael looked down on me. Their close and despicable appearance pushed my anger beyond its limits. Really, I've been troubled by you not getting pregnant forever. A defective product due to infertility. How dare they choose such vile words? They must be thinking of nothing but hurting me. They say they don't need a defective product like you anymore. I'm getting remarried, so let's divorce. I was at a loss for words. I knew he was a womanizer, but I never thought he would cheat with my sister. When I introduced Lisa to Michael, she was overly flirtatious, but I hadn't expected it to go this far. Okay. I'll get ready, just give me a moment. Judging that I had given in, both Lisa and Michael seemed pleased. What drives them to this extent? I don't recall ever doing anything to harass or hurt them, but it's surprising to see how much they dislike me to treat me this way. Hurry up, you know. Stress is toxic to the baby. If you had any decent sense, you'd celebrate your sister and husband's new start and pack your bags and leave quickly. It's surprising to hear words about decent sense from Michael. Being lectured on morals and common sense by these people is the ultimate insult. Or better yet, can you just leave now? A useless person who can't have kids doesn't need to be in the house. Go back to your parents. They're sweet on you, even if you're a failure. Hearing Lisa's words made my blood boil. My parents, who supported my diligent studies and encouraged me despite being plain. Yet they did the same for Lisa, worrying and scolding her for her late returns from her nightly escapades until now. I don't think my parents' love was unequal. In fact, I often felt that despite my sister's delinquency and my being somewhat of an honor student, there was no noticeable difference in how we were loved, almost making me feel less loved. What is she talking about? I suppressed the urge to shout back and feigned calm. It will take some time to pack and explain the situation to others. Please wait a little longer. When I pretended to be disheartened, Lisa and Michael were very pleased. Especially Lisa, who, while pretending to be displeased, couldn't hide the smirk on her lips. Her expression twisted as if torturing me was her greatest pleasure. I don't want to see your miserable face. Lisa's insincere falsetto was echoed by Michael. It would be a disaster if Lisa and the baby got sick. We have no choice but to rent a hotel for us today. Get out right now. Got it? After saying what they wanted to, they left the house. The house that my in-laws bought for us. They must have wanted their son to be responsible. And they treasured it. Even my parents were worried about my sister. The two of them just trampled over everyone's feelings. I'll get my revenge, no matter what. If that's what you want to, fine, I'll give you a divorce. I wanted to divorce too, so that in itself should be welcome. But I will never allow those two to be happy. Just watch. I'll show them hell. I made my preparations. I moved out quickly with my stuff packed, but I dragged out the divorce proceedings for various reasons. In the meantime, I actively worked on gathering evidence and rallying support from others. Since Lisa's belly was quite big, she would probably give birth while I was preparing my revenge. It's because they're not planners that things turned out this way. Being unmarried and giving birth must be tough, but it seems they're not really feeling it. They kept nagging me to hurry up and divorce, but there was no urgency in their demands. Truly appalling people. Are you sure it's Michael's child? After all, that man. Wondering about this, I decided to talk to my in-laws. They had already heard from Michael and Lisa, so it was good timing. Everything is ready. Now, all that's left is to show them hell. A month flew by, and I heard that Lisa had given birth. What right do you have to show up here? You're still clinging to Michael, aren't you? When I entered the hospital room, Lisa looked displeased. She must be enjoying saying mean things to me since she was smirking. Michael also glared at me, following Lisa's lead. I don't know what you've told my parents, but we're strangers now, so stay out of it. You got me scolded. That's because of your unreasonable behavior, I think. But it's useless to say anything. Oh no! My sister might be stalking Michael. It's troublesome. I have Lisa now. Truly blissful people. I held back a sigh and tried not to show my emotions. Congratulations on the birth. Lisa and Michael just looked down on me in response. They can only act like this for now. Excuse me. First of all, congratulations on your hard work giving birth. The in-laws entered the hospital room after that, followed by my parents. Sorry for intruding with such a large group. We have something to discuss. It's going to be a bit hectic from here on. Lisa and Michael, convinced of their victory, sneered at me. Dad, Mom. We finally have a grandchild. Isn't that great? Please hold the baby. Lisa was already trying to charm the in-laws in a falsetto. The in-laws looked stern, and in their place, my parents spoke up. Lisa, it seems we've spoiled you too much. We never imagined you'd grow up to treat your own sister like this. We thought we'd always be on your side, but this is too much. You are no longer welcome in our home. You are cutting ties with you. Hearing this, my mother started crying. I told you countless times to be considerate of others, but it was all in vain. Wait, what's going on? Lisa was taken aback by the sudden disownment. I can't believe you would say that to me, someone who just gave birth. I don't want to be part of a family of poor people like you. Michael sided with Lisa. He put his hand on her and glared at my parents. How unreasonable. How can you say such things to a daughter who's tired from giving birth? Lisa, even if they are your parents, that's unforgivable. And then he said proudly to Lisa, I'll protect you, so don't worry. Michael. They were intoxicated with themselves, completely absorbed in their own world. I can't believe my sister, after all the care our real parents have given her, called them poor. The words she threw at them must have shocked my parents more than me, but they seemed prepared, unshaken. Perhaps, unknown to me, there had been conflicts or disputes between my sister and our parents, and they had written her off a long time ago. You're acting like it's none of your business, but you too. I'm not letting you inherit the company, and you're fired as of today. Don't ever show your face again. What? What do you mean? Michael raised his voice in response to my father-in-law's words. My sister turned pale and trembled. Now that the status she gained at the expense of disparaging her own parents was in jeopardy, it's understandable that she would react this way. It was hard for me not to laugh watching the two of them panic. There's no one else to hand over but me. We have a grandchild now. Doesn't that secure the family's future? What era are you living in? My in-laws were exasperated by Michael's argument. Michael looked pitiful, as if he was about to cling to my in-laws. My sister still didn't seem to fully grasp the situation, only glancing back and forth between my in-laws and Michael. I thought you were capable enough to run the company, but even making you managing director was a mistake. I'll leave the company to a reliable employee. What? That's ridiculous. Finally, Michael's temper exploded, and his shouting filled the room. However, both my father-in-law and mother-in-law seemed used to it and didn't even flinch. I've been talking about becoming CEO. You can't just allow that. That's something you decided on your own. We don't know anything about it. Until now, my mother-in-law, who had been quiet next to my father-in-law, confronted Michael with a resolved attitude. You've been talking about becoming CEO and borrowing money, but find a job and pay it back yourself. We can't take care of you anymore. What? Given Michael's history of partying, it's not surprising he has debts. As a managing director, he should have a decent income, but his extravagant and womanizing ways meant he could never cover his expenses. It seems he also bought cars and a condo without my in-laws' knowledge, and who knows how much debt he has racked up. Then my sister finally understood the situation and dropped her flattering demeanor, glaring at Michael. What's going on? This isn't what we agreed on. Why do you think I had this child? But Michael was too busy yelling at my in-laws to pay her any mind. You guys told me to prove the lineage if I have a grandchild. That's why we had the tests done. What was all that for? My sister's face was drained of color. The tests must have been bad news for her. What? I wasn't informed about this. Michael frowned at my sister's shrill voice as if he found her annoying. Just a moment ago, they looked like a happy couple. What are you fussing about? It's my child, so there's no problem. Shut up, I'm busy right now. Actually, about that. At that moment, a doctor my father had called, who was also a friend of my father-in-law and was cooperating with our revenge, walked into the hospital room with a troubled look. Lisa's child is not related to Michael by blood. What? The room fell silent for a moment. My sister gasped, and Michael broke out in a cold sweat. With the doctor's words, their faces turned ashen. This was my moment. I pulled out various photos I had hidden in my bag. What is this? What are those? Dozens of pictures showed her with different men, some depicting a man and woman entering a hotel. While the woman was consistently my sister, the men weren't just Michael. It seemed she had restrained from relationships since her pregnancy, preventing me from gathering evidence. However, my sister's ex-boyfriend, who had been dumped because she was pregnant, had hired a detective to investigate her infidelity. I had compensated him for the investigation results. Your ex-boyfriend, who you dumped because you got pregnant, hired a detective. If you want, I've also gathered testimonies from him and other men you dated. Michael looked at my sister with murderous eyes. He may look like a victim, but he needs to fall into this hell too. And remember when we went to the hospital for the fertility treatment? I have those test results too. What? Tests? I wasn't informed. Preliminary tests are required for in vitro fertilization. It's standard procedure. The doctor tried to stop Michael by explaining this. But he ignored the doctor's words and left on his own. His selfish behavior drove him into this corner, leading to this situation. It was all his own doing. Your sperm motility is very low. You are definitely suffering from male infertility. If you think it's a lie, take a good look at the test results. No, that's a lie. Michael's reaction was more amusing than I had imagined. His face turned pale, and with trembling hands, he snatched the test results I handed him. He widened his eyes, repeatedly reading the content, and sweat broke out all over his body. His lips quivered as if he was about to collapse. The DNA test also showed that the child isn't yours, and the father is probably one of the men in these photos. I told Michael as he was shaken by the fact he was infertile. Then, Michael shoved the test results back at me and yelled at Lisa. You deceived me! You whore! But Lisa retorted just as fiercely. Shut up! It's your fault for being sterile. No way! It's your fault for being a whore! Michael seemed unwilling to accept the reality and glared at me next. What a mess. Hey! You're lying, aren't you? Can you believe this piece of paper? You're just harassing me. It's all revenge because you got dumped. The defective one is you. Defective, you say? My in-laws and parents frowned at his words. Whether he realized or cared about the atmosphere around him, the more Michael spoke, the worse he made his own situation. My test results are normal at any hospital. If you can't believe it, why don't you try getting tested at various hospitals yourself? Like I have time for that. Get real. Finally, my father-in-law raised his voice. It's you who needs to get real. Have some shame. It's disgraceful. Please, no more shame. It's embarrassing for Kimberly. With those words from my in-laws, Michael flinched. Instead of his yelling, Lisa chimed in. Your actions have doomed me too. What are you going to do about it? Shut up, whore. That's my line. You completely deceived me. Take the kid and disappear. An unbearable argument ensued. Ultimately, it's a relationship tied by money. Their true colors and desires exposed, it was embarrassing even to watch. You wouldn't have any good qualities if you didn't have money. An old flashy woman talking big. My in-laws and parents held their heads in dismay. I'm at a loss for words. How did they end up this way? I feel sorry for the baby. The child is innocent. I was worried about the child too. With such parents, the future seems uncertain, and it's questionable if the child can even be properly raised. Unconcerned with our worries, my sister looked at us. Apparently, she cared more about herself than her child's future. "You caught a weird man, and now my life is ruined. What are you going to do about it? Take responsibility." Michael grabbed Lisa's shoulder. He looked ready to strike. "What did you say? You! Don't touch me! You sterile man!" I was utterly exasperated. I let out a long sigh, releasing all the pent-up frustration I had been holding back. "Your reckless actions are your own responsibility, not mine. In fact, I wish you would take responsibility for them." "Huh? Don't joke with me. You always look down on me. I've always hated the way you look at me." I believe it was actually my sister who looked down on me for living so earnestly. Maybe my sister had her own reasons towards me and our parents. What a coincidence. "I've also been despised by you continuously, and I've never liked your words or attitude." What kind of way is that to talk? You really are not a nice woman. That's why you're abandoned. That must be what they call a double standard. Their talk is completely nonsensical. Negotiation is a waste of time. To conclude, I've decided that you both will take responsibility. I confronted my sister and Michael with a copy of the demand for damages that I had a lawyer prepare. I'm filing for divorce against Michael. Talking it out with these two would be futile, so I resorted to drastic measures. "You will definitely pay up." Considering the years and treatment I endured, it's a small amount, but the two of them exploded in anger. "You money grubber! You want money that badly." "I just want to show them hell. Money is just a means to that end." From their reactions, it seems this was the most effective. Their disgraceful squabbling was too much, and it seemed our parents could no longer bear it, raising their voices. Considering what Kimberly has been through, this amount is too small. Be thankful that this is all it is. How can someone who cheated with her own sister's husband say anything now? You have no grace. Scolding from blood relatives has no effect on selfish people. Their eyes glittered as if everyone but themselves were the enemy. The sight of them raving like madmen, even if anticipated, was frightening. "If you say we're strangers, then stop pretending to be parents." "That's right. You have nothing to do with us anymore." If they had shown some remorse here, perhaps the disownment might have been retracted. But foolish people prioritize their trivial pride and desires, oblivious to the consequences. "Why did it come to this?" Michael and I made eye contact. I had a bad feeling. But Michael acted before I could. He glared at me with murderous intent and lunged. "Kimberly! It's all your fault!" "Ouch!" I screamed involuntarily. But the expected impact never came. "Tyler! You were here too!" Tyler, the executive director who was outside the room, restrained Michael. My father-in-law, looking down at the fuming Michael, seemed sad. "We've decided to let Tyler take over the company, so you can peacefully work." Michael had always despised Tyler. He had always feared that his position was being threatened. Now that his fears had materialized, it seemed his mental balance had finally broken. Like a child throwing a tantrum, he began to scream and thrash about. But Tyler, holding him, didn't flinch. "I've always thought he was too much to handle, but I never imagined it would come to this. Are you all right? Please take him away quickly." Soon after, security arrived. They took over from Tyler, trying to escort the raging Michael out of the hospital. At this point, Michael finally realized he was in a pinch. He broke away from the security guard and clung to my leg. The tears in his eyes as he looked up at me pathetically were utterly repulsive. "I was wrong. Please don't leave me." "Don't you have any pride?" Tyler spoke up for me, saying what I wanted to say. He then pulled Michael off me and protectively put his arm around my shoulder. It seemed that Michael had come to realize everything in this sequence of events. "Fooling around. Ridiculing me. Don't think you're the only one who can have a good life. Whore. With his parting shot, he was led away, and I hoped I would never have to face him again. I can only hope that the trial progresses smoothly. Left alone in the hospital room, my sister saw Tyler holding me and changed color. You're also dating other men, aren't you? I don't know what you are misunderstanding, but she has done nothing unfaithful. I am the one who has fallen for her and am courting her. Embarrassed by his words, I wanted to hide my blushing face and looked down. My in-laws, my parents, and Tyler all watched over me warmly. Afterward, Michael and my sister were cut off from the family, struggling to pay off debts. Michael intended to marry my sister, but after realizing he had no money, she dismissed him and left him. Furthermore, she did not take the child with her, so my parents adopted her and named her Anna. She's a lovely girl. There was no issue with adopting her as it was the plan all along, but seeing my sister abandon her child in the hospital made me realize just how terrible a person she was. She was not fit to take care of a child. While my parents are primarily raising her, I, having returned to my parents' home after separating from Michael, am also helping. I continue to work at my former in-laws' company, maintaining a good relationship with them. My former in-laws also dote on my sister's child as if she were their own granddaughter. Surrounded by love, the child is growing up healthily. I heard that my sister was working in the nightlife, but apparently, she got hooked on a guy and disappeared. Michael, too, chased by debts payments, was deserted by several women who had been eyeing him as the next company CEO. Moreover, the massive debts payments seem endless, and like my sister, he is rumored to be on the verge of disappearing as those lending him money are reaching their limits. Years later, I married Tyler. We have 2 children and are living happily. Come on, today we're going to Grandma's house. Yay! I'm going to play games with my sister. Don't be too spoiled with your sister, okay? Anna, too, has a good relationship with us, and she is adored as a big sister by my children. Kimberly, watch your step. Thanks, love. Tyler has been kind to me for years since our marriage. He says he fell for my true strength and treasures me. With him, I am confident we can overcome anything and will always be happy. This must be a reward from God for surviving through hell. I love you. I love you too. I have finally grasped happiness.